Hey everybody, it's me, Steve Schnee, the CD Junkie. On this episode of CD Junkie, I'm going to be discussing the pride of Texas. Yes, that's right, JOE King Carrasco. Now, I always like to start these videos out by telling you how I got into the band, and that was just because he was signed to Stiff Records. Now, he had already been around for a few years. He'd released an album with El Molino, but by the time I caught up with JOE King Carrasco, he had signed to Stiff Records, and he was part of a Stiff Records tour, and he had an album out on Stiff Records, and this was 1980. And then the album came out, Domestic, and I was just hooked beyond belief, and I've been a follower ever since. But let's start talking about his albums that are available on CD. Now, let me say, before I start out, he's known as essentially a Tex-Mex artist. But I know that a lot of you know that Tex-Mex is more than the Doug Somm Quintet or Question Mark and the Mysterians. And there is a lot of depth to JOE King Carrasco. In fact, his roots go back to 50s rock and roll, and you can really feel that and hear that in the music. So let's start off with the first album. This was JOE King Carrasco and El Molino. Came out in 1978. This album doesn't really have that Farfisa sound that a lot of people know him for, but it's just great. And the music obviously has influence from both Texas and Mexico, and it's just really a fabulous record. 1978, JOE King Carrasco and El Molino. Now, after that, he formed a band called The Crowns, and they started playing around, and that was more Tex-Mex. What they were calling it back then was Nuevo Huevo. Very classic Tex-Mex, but it had sort of a fun, new wave, punky edge to it. Almost everything that JOE King Carrasco has put out has that huge sense of joy and fun to it. Now, the album he put out on Stiff Records was called Mil Gracias a Todos Nuestros Amigos, and I'm probably saying that completely wrong, but that came out in 1980, and that was just an eye-opener. You have all this punk and new wave and synth pop is coming out, and here's this great Tex-Mex rock and roll band. Now, the album was sort of rejigged in the U.S., and it was just self-titled, also came out in 1980. They took some songs off, added some songs. Now, neither of those albums are officially released on CD, but if you go to the joeking.com Mercados section, you'll be able to find something called Nuevo Huevo. So the Nuevo Huevo CD contains pretty much their output from 1980 that was on both of those albums. Now, their next album came out in 1982, and it was called Synapse Gap Mundo Total, and that was on MCA, so there was a lot of push behind it. Now, there's a song on the album called Don't Let a Woman Make a Fool Out of You, which features backing vocals by Michael Jackson. Now, is that not kooky or what? But it's a great record, full of great songs. There was a couple videos from it that got played on MTV and other video channels, so that was really the album that drew a lot of attention to JOE King Carrasco and the Crowns. Now, that album really isn't out on CD, but there is a CD available called Pink Chance, which features all the songs from that album, including Don't Let a Woman Make a Fool Out of You. 1983, he started getting more interest, and there was a video that got played on MTV called Party Weekend, which was the name of his next album. Yet another great collection of Tex-Mex, pop, new wavy type stuff. Really fantastic record. There is one called Get Off Me Quesadilla, which features all the tracks from that. There was an official CD that came out on One Way Records called Anthology. This came out in 1995, and this features pretty much the majority of Synapse Gap and most of Party Weekend, and you can see that there. That is an official release. Now, in 1984, there was a cassette-only thing that came out on Roar, R-O-I-R, and that was called Tales from the Crypt. Now, it did come out on CD. Now, this is actually a collection of demos that they recorded before the first two albums came out. Basement tapes, I think is what they call them. Tales from the Crypt, JOE King Carrasco. Originally came out in 1984 on cassette only, but it is available on CD. Now, they lost their deal with MCA, but they released an album in Europe called Border Town, and it was eventually released here. And that is officially available on this CD here. There's the thing there. But there's also a separate version of the album on its own, and they've retitled it Yabba Ding Ding, which is one of the songs on the album. That was the last official JOE King Carrasco and the Crowns album. He then had a whole new band and renamed them Los Coronas, and they recorded the album Bandito Rock, which is that album right there. Now, they also released an album called Royal, Loyal, and Live. Border Town Bandito Rock, and Royal Loyal and Live are all available on this 2 CD set here. Now, I think for a lot of people, Joe King Carrasco kind of disappeared off the radar because he was only releasing albums through his own label, beginning with Dia de los Muertos. That came out in 1993. And this is the period where he started adding reggae rhythms to his Tex-Mex sound. There was a lot of positive reaction from the crowd when he would do that, so he started incorporating it into his albums. So that's the first of those albums. The next album, Hot Sun, and this is under a new band name, the Los Crowned Heads of Tex-Mex, and that was 99. Haituguacho Cucaracho came out in 2001. That's also with the Los Crowned Heads of Tex-Mex. Now, the next album was 2008, and it's called Rancho No Tengo, and it's a soundtrack to a film that he made. Now, initially, I didn't pick this up because I thought soundtrack, I want to hear Joe singing songs, and I figured soundtrack instrumentals. Boy, was I wrong, because I picked it up later, and it's got a lot of great Joe King Carrasco songs on it. I think there's actually only a few instrumentals, but there's that album right there. Now we're getting into a really, really, really great period of Joe King Carrasco. Everything that's come before has been fantastic, but when I pull out my Joe King Carrasco CDs, this is the period really that I get into. And it all starts with the greatest hits album called Chalupa's Choice, which features like the best of the Joe King Carrasco and the Crowns. Now, of course, that sounds obvious that I'm going to love that because it's the best of. But then out comes an album in 2011 called Tattoo Laredo. And these were actually recordings from the 90s that he never released. And I believe the story goes that his mom used to play a cassette of these, and his mom really, really loved these songs. So Joe finally ended up putting them out. I love this album just as much as I love the stuff with the Crowns. I mean, he evolves. It's not just all this Tex-Mex. It's rock and roll. There's just pop. He can ride a hook as well as like Peter Case from the Plimsolls. I mean, just really, really fantastic. Also that same year, Vamos a Get Down. These might be from those same sessions. Either way, it's a great album. Then he got back together with the original members of the Crowns, and he put out an album called Que Wow. But he, of course, put the name of the band as Los Crown Originales. And this is really a great collection of new songs. Now he reunited with El Molino. Remember the very first album he did from 1978? He reunited with them and put out another incredible record called Tlaquepaque. And that came out in 2003. Some great, great songs on here. Now, he stuck with El Molino for another album called Ruca. Came out in 2014. Another great record. Now, for the next few albums, he embraced more of a blues sound. In fact, with his new backing band called Los Side Effects, he released Chileando in 2015. And if you love blues, this is a break from that sort of Tex-Mexy sound, the sound of his past. And it's kind of a tougher, more raw blues sound. But it's great because it's Joe King Carrasco. And then with another new band, he released Mariachi Blues, which is with his band Colectivo Chihuahua. And that's another blues record. And just a matter of like maybe a month ago, he released a brand new album called Beer, Bars, and Guitars. And that's also recorded with Colectivo Chihuahua. I'm loving this almost as much as like Tattoo Laredo. Now, it still has that blues from Chileando and from Mariachi Blues, but it's also got better hooks, in my opinion, on this record. Although it's hard to really choose, this is probably my favorite out of the last 3 or 4 that he's put out. Really, really fantastic. And that is it with my Joe King Carrasco. Now you get to sit back and relax and enjoy a medley that I created featuring songs throughout Joe's career, just showing you how he's evolved and how he's been continually creating great music. So here it is, Joe King Carrasco.
Always and always I will love you, and forever and ever I'll be true. It's bye, 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 playboy. So long, late, late nights. Rocket, she's a Houston Elmova, Houston good looker, Houston Elmova, how she moves so fast. She's a Houston Elmova, Houston good looker, Houston Elmova, how she moves so fast. the big one over on me. Can you explain? Can you explain? Make it plain, plain, plain. Can you explain? Can you explain? Make it plain, plain, plain. Oh, oh, oh. I've been drugged through the mud, left for dead with no hope. Get back up, yeah. Woo. Give you all my money. I can't forget, 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 forget. Why, why, why? My ding-dong daddy, she's daddy out that door. My ding-dong daddy, no daddy, no, no more. Hey. I don't do that. I don't wear white hair. I don't wear white hair. Welcome to the dead man. Adios. Oh, Castanada. Nada mucho. No one knows where the dead man goes. It's a dead, dead man. Adios. It's a dead, dead man.
Well, that's it. I appreciate you sitting around and allowing me to talk about Joe King Carrasco. I hope maybe this inspires you to go investigate him, maybe check out some stuff at the joeking.com website. Look under Mercado. You'll find CDs there. You'll find Mexican bags. It's just great. A lot of fun stuff. So definitely check out joeking.com. Check out the music of Joe King Carrasco. I appreciate you hanging out with me for a little while. Remember to like, comment, share, subscribe, ring that bell for future notifications. And until the next time, remember me. I'm Steve Schnee, the CD Junkie.